Jagat Guru, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupad, founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, Ki Jai. My name is Ami Atmadas. I've been a disciple of Srila Prabhupada since 1973, initiated. This video is made for those who have decided to accept initiation as a member of ISKCON and a loyal follower of Srila Prabhupada and his movement, and who are therefore seriously looking to find a suitable initiating guru. Today there are so many gurus in ISKCON. How to know and decide which one is best for you? Actually, aside from this video you're watching, I have made an extensive presentation on this topic designed to help new members in their spiritual quest to make this most serious of decisions. Excuse me. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text 34, Lord Krishna teaches, Tadvidhi pranipatena prasnena sevaya upadekshayanti te jnanam jnaninas tadvadarshana. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. Krishna tells us that tadvidi pranipatena. Tat means that. It also refers to that which is the real truth or the real essence. Vidhi means to possess knowledge. Pranipatena means one must bow down and surrender to the person, the teacher of such knowledge. Pariprasnena sevya. Pariprasnena means to inquire submissively, and sevya means to render that person service. Upadekshanti describes the process of the person who can initiate you and uplift you in spiritual life. Te refers to you, the person who is seeking such spiritual upliftment and initiation. Jnana means to become realized with knowledge. Jnaninas tattvadarshana. Jnaninas means one who has full knowledge of the self, or one who is fully self-realized in spiritual knowledge. Tat, again, refers to the truth, or that which is. Generally, Srila Prabhupada defines the word tattva as being the absolute truth, meaning the absolute truth about the existence of life and the source of all spiritual and material things. In this sense, it also refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the absolute truth. Darshanaha. The word darshan means to see or also to understand. And darshinaha refers to the person who is seeing or who has this understanding. Krishna is herein instructing that this person you accept as your guru, the person who can give you knowledge of the truth, tadvidhi, who can uplift you spiritually and give you proper initiation, upadekshanti, the person who is fully capable of imparting jnana, or true knowledge of God, can only do so because he himself is jnanani vas. He is a fully self-realized soul. And he has tattva darshana. He has full knowledge of the absolute truth. Thus, in this verse, Krishna instructs that the person you select to take initiation from must be a fully self-realized soul who already has seen and understands the supreme absolute truth. Understanding this verse, we can see and understand how important this decision of selecting the proper and qualified guru is to one's spiritual life. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. In his purport to Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 24-21, Srila Prabhupada quotes from the Padma Purana. And I quote, in the Padma Purana, the characteristics of the guru, the bona fide spiritual master, have been described. Maha Bhagavato Shreshto Brahmana Bhai Guru Nirnam Sarvesham eva lokanam ashu pujyo jatahari mahakulo parsutopi sarva jagneshu dikshataha sahasra sakadhyayi Chana Guru Syad Avaishnavaha. The Guru must be situated on the topmost platform of devotional service. Let me actually start that over, because the Guru must be situated on the topmost platform of devotional service. There are 3 classes of devotees, and the Guru must be accepted from the topmost class. The first class devotee is the spiritual master for all kinds of people. Later, and that was the end of the quote, but later in the same purport, Srila Prabhupada says, and again I quote, "Such a person is called an acharya because he knows the principles of devotional service, he behaves in that way himself, and he teaches his disciples to follow in his footsteps. Thus, he is an acharya, or Jagat Guru." End of quote. Note that the word acharya means a teacher who teaches by their own personal example. The word guru also means a teacher, so the words are very similar and are often used interchangeably, although the word acharya is most often used as part of a title. Like, we don't normally say Madhva Guru or Advaita Guru, but we use the term acharya, as in Madhva Acharya or Advaita Acharya. The specific meaning of acharya, however, is a teacher who teaches by their own personal example. Again, later on in the same purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, and again I quote, "The Mahabhagavat is one who decorates his body with tilak, whose name indicates that he is a servant of the Krishna by the word das. He also is initiated by a bona fide spiritual master, and he is expert in worshiping the deity, chanting the mantras correctly, performing sacrifices, offering prayers to the Lord, and performing Sankirtan. He knows how to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead and how to respect a Vaishnav. When one has attained the topmost position of a Mahabhagavat, he is to be accepted as a guru and worshipped exactly like Hari, the personality of Godhead. Only such a person is eligible to occupy the post of a guru." End of quote. Then again, later on in the same purport, again, Srila Prabhupada says, and again I quote, "The disciple must have the following qualifications. He must give up interest in the material bodily conception. He must give up material lust, anger, greed, illusion, madness, and envy. He should be interested only in understanding the science of God, and he should be ready to consider all points in this matter. He should no longer think, 'I am this body,' or 'this belongs to me.' One must love the spiritual master with unflinching faith, and one must be very steady and fixed. The bona fide disciple should be inquisitive to understand the transcendental subject matter. He must not search out faults among good qualities, and he should no longer be interested in material topics. His only interest should be Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As far as the mutual testing of the spiritual master and the disciple is concerned, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati explains that a bona fide disciple must be very inquisitive to understand the transcendental subject matter, as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 11.3.21. Tasmat gurum prapadyate jignasu shreya uttamam. One who is inquisitive to understand the highest goal and benefit of life must approach a bona fide spiritual master and surrender unto him. A serious disciple must be alert when selecting a bona fide spiritual master. He must be sure that the spiritual master can deliver all of the transcendental necessities. Both Shastra, the Padma Purana, and Srila Prabhupada emphasizes that one must only accept a guru who is on the topmost devotional platform, a true Mahabhagavat. Then Srila Prabhupada emphasizes that a serious disciple must be alert when selecting a bona fide spiritual master. He must be sure that the spiritual master can deliver all the transcendental necessities. Thus we can understand how Lord Krishna and his bona fide representative, Srila Prabhupada, they both taught how serious this process of selecting a bona fide spiritual master is. And of course, that makes perfect logical sense. The goal is to understand the real truth about life, about the nature of the soul and the source of all existence. We want to attain the highest state of consciousness. We want to learn the process of how to break the chains that bind us to this never-ending cycle of birth, death, disease, and old age. Krishna tells us that the only person who can do this, the only person who can give such initiation is he who is jnanivas, fully self-realized, and who already knows God in full, tattva darshana. The Padma Purana states that the only one who is qualified to become guru is he who has already reached the highest stage of devotion and has become a true Mahabhagavat. Actually, this is the same process in all other aspects of life as well. If you want to learn to become a successful in anything, a successful stock market trader or a real estate investor, or a heart surgeon, or any other field, you need to find someone who is really already expert and fully successful in that field. Then you must approach them in a submissive mood and inquire from them. Because they are fully realized in that science that you're seeking to learn, then they can impart such knowledge to you. It is not that you can learn by seeking lessons from another student. You can learn something from someone who has not got full knowledge, but if you want to learn the actual topic, you need to learn from someone who has full knowledge of that topic and is a certified professor in that field. So let's say you want to become a heart surgeon. It isn't that you just go to the nearby university and seek instructions from other students, especially from, beginning student, but any other student, because they themselves have not completed their training. They can't bring you to the highest knowledge in that field. They may, help you here and there along the way, give some helpful advice here and there, but ultimately you will need to take instructions from a certified professor, especially if you yourself want to become a certified medical doctor. You need to follow the process and take instructions from those who already themselves are fully knowledgeable and certified to teach others. Spiritual life is the same. You can take help and advice along the path from those who are not yet fully realized. But when it comes to taking initiation, Krishna teaches you must only take initiation from one who themselves are fully God conscious and on the highest platform of devotional life. This is a most serious decision to make. First, you must be yourself serious about this path that you're taking. Then you must be very careful, as Srila Prabhupada said, careful to select one who is genuinely, fully self-realized. As stated in the Padma Purana, as quoted by Srila Prabhupada, one must only accept as one's guru a person who is on the topmost level of devotion, a true Mahabhagavat. In ISKCON today, there are dozens and dozens of gurus who have been authorized by the GBC. But how to know who of those current gurus is so fully qualified and on the highest Mahabhagavat stage? Who among them are fully self-realized? As Krishna says, you must seek one who has full self-realization. So who among these gurus are really, truly, fully self-realized, that you can feel confident in taking their full shelter? Or does it really matter? What I mean is, since the GBC have authorized or ordained those persons to act as initiating gurus within ISKCON, then does it really matter which one you choose? Since, according to the GBC, all of the persons that they have authorized are authorized by them to give initiation. Has the GBC then performed all of the work for you? Have they already determined that all of those who they have authorized are fully self-realized souls and they're on the highest Mahabhagavat platform of devotional life? If that's the case, then all you need to do is find one that you'd have some personal, Ross with, that you can, But otherwise, as Krishna says, your duty is to make sure that that person that you take is self-realized and has the full understanding of God, that he has seen the absolute truth. Only they can impart that knowledge to you. That's what Krishna teaches. The scripture teaches that only a Mahabhagavat can become Guru. And Prabhupada repeated in his purport. But does that mean that then all of those who the GBC have ordained meet those qualifications that Krishna is giving? These are the criteria that Krishna says must be there, and Prabhupada said must be there. Although it isn't discussed openly during Srimad Bhagavatam classes and the temples today, but it is a fact that in ISKCON's history, after Srila Prabhupada departed this world, there have been a number of ISKCON gurus whom the GBC had authorized, yet they had fallen down. Just after Srila Prabhupada departed, the GBC declared that the 11 men that Srila Prabhupada had appointed as his Ritvik representatives were now to become the ISKCON's 11 new acharyas. And as we've already quoted, Srila Prabhupada wrote in his purport in Chaitanya Charitamrita, again I quote, when one has attained the topmost position of Mahabhagavat, he is to be accepted as a guru and worshipped exactly like Hari, the personality of Godhead. Only such a person is eligible to occupy the post of a guru. End of quote by Srila Prabhupada. So when one has attained the topmost position, he is not only to be accepted as a guru, but he's to be worshipped exactly like Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Not that the guru has become God or is God, no. Because he has reached the highest level of love of God, because he has developed unalloyed pure devotion to God, such a person becomes worthy of our respect, and we are to worship them as we would the Supreme Lord himself. And in 1978, just after Srila Prabhupada had departed this world, the GBC, they had this understanding. They had the understanding that only such an elevated person is qualified to become guru, and as such, that person is to be worshipped the same as we worship Krishna. Those understandings of the GBC were not wrong. They were solidly based on Srila Prabhupada's teachings and found in his books, as I've just quoted. However, based on those understandings, the GBC put forth that the first 11 new acharyas, that they had attained the highest stage of devotional life. And thus they were worthy of being worshipped the same as we do for Krishna, the same as we had done for Srila Prabhupada. But were those 11 men actually bona fide gurus? Had they actually reached that topmost level? But the GBC assumed, the understanding was in 1978 that Srila Prabhupada had appointed them as gurus, and therefore if he had appointed them, he recognized that they were Mahabhagavats. That was the understanding. So based on that, the GBC instructed the temples to order new Vyasasans, carved just so the new gurus could sit in their own Vyasasans, which are just a little bit shorter than that of Srila Prabhupada's. They started having Guru Pujas for the new gurus in the temple, sometimes performed side by side with Prabhupada, sometimes after Prabhupada's. All the new gurus were given, or they gave themselves pada titles, like, because we had Srila Prabhupada, a pada title we gave for Prabhupada. So some of the new gurus took titles like Bhaktipad, Tirthapad, Acharyapad, etc. But in a few short years, cracks began to show in what became, what was then known as the zonal acharya system, some of the biggest gurus began falling down. Some of them in most horrible ways. Some were caught having sex with their initiated spiritual daughters. Some were found to be taking, illicit intoxication like LSD. Some had been encouraging disciples to raise money by selling, illegal drugs. By 1980, just 2 short years after they became guru, one of the 11 began preaching that no one, not even Srila Prabhupada's own initiated disciples, could reach Krishna without accepting them as their guru also and worshiping them. A few years later, another of the 11 gurus became infatuated with machine guns and was even arrested for possession of an illegal weapon. By 10 years, one of the 11, who had been hailed for many years as a pure devotee, a true Mahabhagavat, would be convicted in court and sentenced to serve hard time in a federal prison for racketeering, mail fraud, criminal intent to commit murder, even I think possibly child molestation, anyway, other crimes. Yet for years the GBC had propped those very same men up as being bona fide ISKCON gurus on the highest platform of devotional life. As far as the GBC was concerned, they had met Lord Krishna's criteria for becoming guru. They had met the Shastra, like the Padma Purana's criteria for becoming guru. And yet, by 10 years, the majority of the first 11 so-called new acharyas had fallen down in horrible and serious ways. But some had just got up and quit. They not only resigned as gurus in GBC, but just outright walked out of ISKCON and left. Stopped engaging in devotional service and sat on a practice for decades. The reason I'm pointing this out is because, as we have just shown, this process of selecting one's guru, as Srila Prabhupada himself pointed out, must be taken very seriously. One has to take great care to select only a true Mahabhagavat. That is what Srila Prabhupada, the past acharyas, Shastra, and Krishna have all taught. Because this is such a serious issue, we shouldn't bury our heads in the sand and pretend that so many gurus in ISKCON have not fallen down. We can't take this so lightly and just pretend that it just really doesn't matter. Well, the GBC today preach that you can accept as guru any of the many devotees that they have ordained and authorized. The new members must be aware that this advice given by the current GBC, that advice does not and did not come from His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. You cannot find anywhere in his teachings where he stated that if the GBC says someone is bona fide, that if they put their stamp of approval on this person, that makes that person an actual bona fide guru. You cannot find such an instruction given by Srila Prabhupada because he never gave any such instruction. He never authorized the GBC to authorize who is a real bona fide guru. He never taught that the process of selecting and determining if a guru is a bona fide or not was to be left up to the GBC for them to decide. No, what you will find is that he taught that the person who is seeking a bona fide guru, that person is the one who must be very careful in making their own decision. Srila Prabhupada never taught anywhere or at any time that the new members are to leave this important decision up to the GBC to decide for them. Just because the GBC today say that all of the current gurus that they have ordained as being bona fide, that does not make them bona fide. All we have to do is look back in ISKCON's short history and we will see that the GBC had also in the past adamantly upheld all of the gurus that they had authorized to become gurus, but who have later, at a later time, fell down. All of them they had upheld at one time as being bona fide gurus, at least in their view, at that time. Yet in the end, all of those who fell down, they fell down. Therefore, it is not just my personal advice to the new members, but it is Lord Sri Krishna's and Prabhupada's advice. Buyer beware. Obviously, those aren't the actual words that Krishna or Prabhupada used, but Krishna taught that one has to determine. The person that one accepts as guru to give you initiation, upadekshanti, that person has to be jnani vas, fully self-realized. That person has to have tattva darshan. He has to tattva darshina. He has to be a person who has seen the absolute truth. Only a person who is already so fully self-realized and who is already tattva darshana, only that person can then impart that knowledge to you. It's what Krishna's teaching in Bhagavad Gita, what the Padma Purana says, only the Mahabhagavat. Srila Prabhupada then points out that it is the new aspiring disciple who must be very careful in making this decision of who they select as their initiating guru. Thus, the modern term buyer beware aptly applies here. The person seeking a bona fide guru, it is for them to make their own educated decision, which means you have to do your own due diligence. One way that the current JBC and ISKCON have dealt with the fall downs of so many of the gurus is that today the JBC are teaching that since practically no one today is on that highest platform of devotional service, and practically no one is a Mahabhagavat, they are now teaching the new members that they don't need to hold ISKCON gurus up to such a high standard. They argue, they argue if we did, then practically there would be no gurus in ISKCON at all. So the current JBC teach that, according to them, it's more important to accept one of them as your guru rather than trying to find a Mahabhagavat or trying to hold them up to that standard. Because practically speaking, none of the gurus today are on that platform. I and many other followers of Srila Prabhupada, I'm Prabhupada's disciple as well, and I find such advice to be outright offensive because such advice goes directly against the teachings of the past acharyas, against the Vedic scriptures, and against what Lord Sri Krishna himself taught in Bhagavad Gita, as I have just pointed out. While one may accept various Shiksha gurus who may not be on the topmost level, one should be most careful in selecting and taking shelter of one's upadekshanti, one's Diksha Guru. This is a most serious issue and a most serious decision, who to select as your spiritual master. And as I have pointed out in the purport that Srila Prabhupada gave, he was saying that the person, the person who is aspiring to be that disciple, it is up to him to be careful in his selection. It is up to the disciple, the aspiring disciple, for them to make this decision. You have to do your own due diligence. You can't just leave it up to even the GBC or any other. You can take advice, you can take some guidance, you can take some, advice, but it's your decision to make. You are the one, just like the spiritual master is making the decision whether to accept this person as disciple or not. The disciple has to do his own due diligence. Is this person fully qualified, as Srila Prabhupada said, who can give all transcendental necessities? So please keep an open mind and watch the full presentation that I've made on this most serious topic. The link is given below. You'll see in the description below. Thank you, and all glories to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Jai.